there's a lot of information you've been listening to over the past several hours, and sometimes you pick the right things, and sometimes you pick something and you think, oh, this doesn't actually work for me. So I'll sort of pull together a lot of it, and especially highlight some of the things that are absolutely key, and where I've seen people go down or become very successful, and where people you know already from the media will be the kinds of people who are very successful. So I'm Danish of nationality, lived in the UK for some 25 plus years now. I graduated in complementary healthcare, and one of my experience with that was going straight out into a private business as you did. You think you've got an accountant, therefore everything's going to be fine, until at the end of the year he says, well, I wish you'd made a little bit more. Oh, shoot. If you go to an accountant, they're not necessarily the best investors, so you're going to have somebody who's investing. Okay? So always think there's a title, but ask the relevant and right and deep boring questions. Get all the information you can before you choose somebody. And as somebody said, the yellow pages still exist, but if you go out there and look at it and you think, yeah, how do I choose this one from that one? And that's some of the stuff I'm going to highlight and say, well, these are the things that have changed. And this is why you can't now do what you did 20 years ago, and yet people are still doing it, day in, day out. Okay? So my background, after private practice, I got into research, which is my main interest. That's always been my main interest. Then it was teaching in academia, and it's been private practice, and then it's been teaching in academia again. So I've got sort of in and out. In the last few years in academia, much of my time was spent with PhD students and others, apart from supervising student projects, was also looking at what kind of commercial angle could they have. And one of the things that I found interesting was that people get what I call the PhD syndrome. And that's PhD students doing their PhD. It's so totally important to them. It's the only thing in the world that matters, except nobody else knows about it. So they get so specialized, and even when they're so specialized in a very specific field, I can go in there with hardly any knowledge in the subject and find information that's important to them, which they totally overlooked. I thought, why on earth is that? The other is, which came to rise when I was at Southampton University, and we were pulling our hairs out in the department there, is why on earth are these PhDs not going out talking about their stuff? Well, one of the reasons might be that they're a bit reluctant, because if it's not new and original, you don't get your PhD. There was somebody working on his PhD for 15 years. After 15 years, somebody had actually written a book about the subject, so it totally invalidated his PhD. He only got an MPhil. So you can't wait and wait and wait forever. And the same was alluded to by, or in relation to investors. If you're taking 15 years to think about something, and you come up and say, oh, I think I want to get into this property investment. Right, how long have you been thinking about it? 15 years. I don't think it's for you. If you take that long to make decisions, forget it. So know your reasons why you want to go into a business or a subject or whatever it is. Don't just, oh, you can make a lot of money or whatever. Yeah, but that's not what's going to keep you going. You've got to have a good reason why. I'm glad there are some dyslexics here. I've worked with a lot of dyslexic students. We seem to get most of them because they think differently. They can see things which you and I can't see. Sometimes I wish I was Richard Branson. You know? Well, why do I need to know this? I'll just go and hire a PhD who knows about it, and then I'll go and ask him some questions. Henry Ford was accused of being stupid when he was pulled in court many years ago. Well, why should I? I've got 5 buttons in front of me. I press this one for the engineers, this one for the marketing, this one for something else. I don't need to know all that stuff. And that's one of the things you should realize. When you pitch, if you don't show your vulnerability, that you do have knowledge and skills gaps, and you think you know everything, and you fall in love with your product or whatever it is, you are doomed to fail in many cases, because you just can't see where you're getting things wrong. So you've got to have outside input. So when you go into a room with people who know more than you will learn and grow. If you're the one who knows everything, you don't really have any competition, any challenges. Okay? So you've got to be humble about it, learn and grow. Okay? Don't think I know it all, because I guarantee you, you don't. I still smile of the day. Not so long ago, one of my colleagues came and said, "Oh, we're doing this in complementary healthcare. This is the article we've got to find out, but we can't find it anywhere, so we better go and do British Library. It's going to take 3 weeks before they get it." I said, "What's the article? Who's the author? Where's the journal?" I said, "Okay." Came back to them. This was a 5-minute job. That was a long one. Normally it takes 3. And they were rather, dare I say, pissed off with me because they felt so stupid. I said, it's because you're using the wrong keywords. And it's the same thing when you go and look for information. That's why research, when I do it, I think outside the box and in a different way. Whether it's commercial, whether it's academic, whether it's something else. If you always put in the top keywords and you get 6 million results, are you going to look through all of this? No. You've got to narrow it down. Okay? And that's exactly the same I would do with a small business if somebody came in. Now you've been talking about USP. What's the USP? Unique selling proposition. I don't work with that. It's old-fashioned. Tactical marketing is old-fashioned. It's now strategic marketing. Because who's got the power and the knowledge? It's the consumer who can go and look up anything on the internet, and they'll come in with a stack of papers, and you look stupid because you don't know all this stuff they can find. Therefore, in the past, when you bought something, you went to the person who was selling it, and he would probably sell it to you because he had all the knowledge. You couldn't get it anywhere else. I've sat with Index Medicals, these big books with articles in them. And I went through, I don't know how many of them. Nowadays, you just go online and you can find it anywhere, almost. Okay? So tactical marketing is where the seller had the power. Now it's the consumer. So you've got to go for strategic. And they're looking for information most of the time. Okay? So you've got to give them a bit here and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there. And eventually, once they go down that buyer's journey, they will eventually make a decision and then buy it. Unless it's an emergency where they need it right now, so they'll jump the queue. But in the past, it was from A to B. Now it's A, B, C, etc., all the way down to Z. And you've got to realize that in just about any service or product that you have. People are suspicious, people don't want to be sold to, but they like to buy. So they want to know that it's good money, good value, and they don't want to be looking like a fool afterwards. That's why when you look at Yellow Pages, I use something called a conversion equation evaluator. Evaluating websites, evaluating businesses. It is not difficult to find £10,000 in a business, an established business, in about 45 minutes. And they're sitting on it, but they don't know it. You focus on 80%, or the 20% that brings in 80% of the income, if that's what it is. Okay, and that's what I use with this. It's a system. You've got to have systems. You've got to have systems and people. You have people running the systems and systems running the business. Because otherwise you're going to be the one sitting there doing it all. And again, you haven't got all the knowledge and the skills, and therefore it's going to be very, very difficult and long nights, etc. And most people don't last that long. So if you have an established business, it's quite easy to come in if you focus on certain things. What do I mean by having the market dominating position rather than a USP? Market dominating position. That's the first question I'm asking. You come to me and say, oh, I want to do this and this. Well, I have this business. Well, what's your market dominating position? What's that? What's your unique selling proposition? Oh, we're the experts in this field. I saw that in one of the local magazines recently, and I cringed because guess what? Everybody's saying that. Oh, we've been in business for 35 years or since 2000 before Christ or whatever it is. Everybody's saying that. Well, how did you write your advert in that particular paper? Well, I copied my competitors. Guess what they're saying? The same as you say. Guess what this does to persons who come to your business? How do I choose this, or this? Oh, I've got to undercut it with a price. Well, you can't because you're as low as you can get. Okay, so the only thing you compete on is price, not value. So you've got to add more value. And that's the whole focus of strategic marketing. Give them the information, etc. It takes time. Okay? So unless your pipes burst in the middle of the night, etc., you're not going to be a now buyer with the plumber. Okay? You also got to understand what goes on in these people's heads, the business people in particular. Without offending anyone, I hope, I'm told that accountants are petrified of losing clients. So if you ask them how many clients they want to lose this year, they sort of feel very uncomfortable. Okay? Have they got a lot of knowledge, same with solicitors, about marketing? No, not really. Okay? If you said to an estate agent, why don't you just do it for free, and then put that up in the advert, they'll say, no, absolutely no way. So do you think that will differentiate you from all the others who say they have 35 years of experience? Your property sold in 29 days, or we'll do it for free. They're all going to come. So you've got to find something that's different, whether you have a product or a service, and that's really focusing on value rather than price. Okay? But most people are poor at communicating it. They put up the same adverts as everybody else. Now, as I specialize in both strategic marketing and crowdfunding, which hasn't been mentioned today as far as I know, but it's not equity crowdfunding, it's non-equity team-based crowdfunding. That means you don't have somebody who wants 20%, etc. People say, oh, I want to do that. Yes, good luck. It's a team-based effort. You can't do it on your own. You haven't got all the marketing, etc. Yes, I know there are successful ones. They've got the money they wanted, but you're talking about very small amounts, and it probably took them all their friends and family and whoever to put in something. So if it's a small amount, yes, you can do it. But if you're looking for the bigger to fund some of your factories or whatever, then it's a totally different ballgame. Okay? I work with some people in the States, well, they're from all over the world, but mostly in the States. Just got to deal with Fox TV doing something in a studio, video recording, etc. over there. So it's going to be streamed online for Fox TV. So it's going to be similar to the TV channels you see where they are selling kitchenware and cleaning stuff and whatever. But it's going to be very high-tech products, very special, and totally unique. But that's something that's coming up. There's also part of it is app development. But all of this is through crowdfunding. And people think, oh, you need the money to do this. No, you don't. It's to get exposure. Okay? That's more valuable than whatever amount comes in. It's the exposure. Now, in terms of crowdfunding, at least if you are in Scandinavia and you read some of the stories from the UK and West Wales in particular, you'll say, oh, right, this is dangerous. There are now more than 450 crowdfunding sites of all kinds. As was said before, and this is typical, I used to run conferences as well as a professional journal. And if there's one thing people don't do is follow the instructions, and they can't understand why they get rejected. Okay? It's the same here. You apply for funds, you go and pitch to an investor or whatever. You've got to do your homework, and you've got to be able to do it in your sleep. Otherwise, forget it. Okay? They're not stupid.